Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome to the stream. Thank you all so much for joining. Today we are going to be discussing the legendary epic Snyder Cut and enjoy this background gameplay from Injustice Player and Alb Spams L2. Not my gameplay, but I'm sitting here AFK in this King of the Hill lobby. They're just going back and forth as Robin, so enjoy that gameplay as a background. What's up, Shameful Winging It? What's up, Shawrick? Damien, back in the chat. M Enterprises back in the chat. Neo is in the chat. The Gotham Guardian. What up? What up? We did hit 80.3K. Love to see it. Gaining lots of subs out here. You love to see it. We're on the road to 100K. That's why we're on the grind. We're streaming multiple times a week. We're uploading multiple times a week. And we're here to discuss the legendary Snyder Cut. And I have the hiccups. What's up, D. Yanko? What's up, Jonathan? What's up, Stonesy? What's up, Hunter Moore? My night is going great so far. I'm excited to stream. I'm excited to talk about the Snyder Cut. We might be able to get some discussions going in here. Discord, we'll do the second half of the stream. Probably some Discord talk. We're going to do a Q&A. So the way I like to really structure these streams is I like to have kind of an opening monologue where if somebody wants to watch the video kind of like a video log, they can certainly do that. So if they're not live, this is going to be up after the fact and they're going to be able to watch. So what I like to do is I'm going to probably go for 20 minutes and just give you my thoughts as if I was just giving you a commentary and going through the game and giving you my thoughts on it. And in those 20 minutes, I'll be collecting super chats, and then I'm going to go through the super chats once I'm done giving my introduction and my introductory thoughts, and then I'll read the chat, starting with all of the super chats. So that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to basically just go into my diatribe on what I think about the movie, and then from there, we'll go with the super chats. Typically there is a decent amount of them. So, I mean, in prior streams, then it's really, prior Gotham Knight streams, prior Arkham streams, it's literally been like only the comments, the super chats. But I think in this stream, it'll be a little more balanced, if I'm being totally honest. I know I'm probably disincentivizing super chats, but if I'm being honest, you'll probably be able to get some questions in without super chats. But super chats are greatly appreciated. As I mentioned in the prior stream, I don't get any ad revenue, maybe like $1 or $2 per stream. So really the only way I make money on the streams, which do take a lot of time and energy, and they take a lot of work to set up. So super chats are greatly appreciated. Andy Signor in the stream I was just in, he mentioned like a 2-drink minimum. If you hang out here for an hour or something, if you have a couple bucks to spare, that's greatly appreciated and really helps. And if everybody chips in as much as they can, then it really can create quite a bit in the long run. We already have 30 viewers in here. Imagine we'll get up pretty high as the stream goes on and we kind of hit with the algorithm here. So let me just make sure everyone's in here that I want to be in here. Jonathan, Shameful Winging It, M Enterprises. We already have 40 viewers. That's great. Okay, and also we're going to have a special guest joining us. Jake spoiled in the chat. Okay, yeah, Jake's going to be hopping on. Okay, well, in that case, we're just going to wait till Jake hops on. We're just going to hang out till Jake gets on. And then Jake and I are going to do our dual cast. And then we're going to take super chat questions. Oh, look! Yo, Damien's playing. Zone NMOB, this is Damien. Admiral Snack Bar? Bro, it's been a while since I've seen you, bro. How are you? Admiral Snack Bar is an OG supporter of the channel. He was a channel member for a long time. Good to see you, bro. Hope you're doing well. You might have been in the last stream. I can't remember, but I don't think you were in yesterday's stream. So, like I said, Jake's going to be getting on in 5 to 10 minutes. And then we're going to be playing with him. What's going to be tough? No, I'm not playing the game, Spider Tie. Hey, Admiral Snack Bar rejoins the Slick Mafia. Our first member of the day. We're now 7/10 of the way to our membership goal. 3 more members and we hit our goal for the stream, guys. You can become a member. It's $2 a month, or you can super chat. Both are greatly appreciated. Both support the stream. And no worries, Admiral Snack Bar. Thanks for joining, brother. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have 8 out of 10 members. So now 2 more members to go to hit our goal for the stream. Can we do it? Can we hit 2 more members? This is my second stream in a row. I did a stream yesterday, too. So you guys are really getting a bang for your buck now. And who knows? Once I might start doing member-only chats where it's only my members. And then that way, you know, no one has to super chat, really, to stand out in the chat. It's basically just all members. So probably won't do that this stream, but we'll start doing that soon. Because I got to give love to my members. What's up, Thunder? What's up, Spider Ty? What's up, Hunter Moore? I already said hi to Hunter. Rob, I have not seen Superman and Lois. Should I watch it? That's the question. So I also wanted to run through when it comes to... no, I'm not going to do that, actually. Put this down here. I'm going to read this article for you. I would share my screen, but I don't have it set up, so I'm just going to read it. So Warner Brothers did an interview today where they discussed the Snyder Cut. Warner Brothers says no plans. Hey, Greg Pop has joined the Slick Mafia. Welcome to the Slick Mafia, Greg. Well, you're rejoining. And by the way, if you notice, Greg has a green thing next to him. That means he's been a member for more than 3 months. Admiral Snack Bar has a red one next to him. That means he's been a member for more than 6 months now. So the longer that you're a member, and you can renew at any point. Hey, Shawrick sells the internet. Welcome to the Slick Mafia, brother. Thank you for becoming a member. We got the the membership train rolling in here, and we have already hit our goal for the night. Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated, guys. And of course, if you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. It's only $2 a month, $24 a year. We keep it cheap around here. We want everyone to be able to afford their membership. We did, Damien. Thank you. Thank you all my hype lords in the chat. Okay, like I said, we're just waiting on Jake to hop on here. Oh, he's already on. Okay. Thank you, Shawrick. Let me call him. Jesus, that's loud. Yo.
What's up?
What's up, brother? You're live, by the way.
It's been a while. Yep.
Just making sure. I know you like to hop on calls and then just drop expletives and, you know, go crazy.
I'm pretty off color.
So I was just telling everybody that we're waiting. I was waiting for you to join so we can, because I'm very curious. You've seen the whole thing, right? All the Snyder Cut? Ooh, great. Yep. So, I mean, we're going to do a chat later, obviously with Anonymous Throwdown, where we're getting Dustin in, we're getting Savo in, but I figured we could go for 20 minutes. And, I mean, you've done my streams with me before, but you know how we kind of do it. So you and I will probably riff for like 20, 25 minutes or something. and just give our thoughts back and forth. And in the meantime, people can send in questions with super chats, and then we're going to go back through the backlog of super chat questions. We already have over 50 people in here, and that number is going to keep growing in my experience. So we'll probably not have time to answer any questions besides super chats. So if you guys have any questions, or if you just became a member, send in your questions as we go along. If you have any questions, any comments as well, you're certainly welcome to give an opinion. If you disagree with our opinion, send in that comment as well. And the super chat is just a great way that you support the stream, and then also we can go back through, highlight it, and make sure that we hit your question, because there are going to be a lot of comments and questions that come in, and this is just a great way to sort through that while supporting the stream. So, Jake, 1 to 10, where do you rate the Snyder Cut?
It's an 8 for me. 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. And to put that in perspective, the theatrical was a 6 out of 10.
Okay. You know, it's interesting because when I watched the Snyder Cut, it made my rating for the theatrical cut go down, which is not really fair to the theatrical cut because it is a 6 out of 10. For sure, it is. I think that's the right rating. But then after I saw it, and then I went back and I watched some scenes from it, I think it's like a 4, if I'm being honest.
You know, I think you're right. Like if we're just looking at it as a standalone theatrical film, about 6 out of 10. But I'd agree with you if we're directly comparing it to the Snyder Cut. Yeah, it's probably closer.
In comparison, it really doesn't compare. So let's start from the beginning of the film. So I mean, right when it opens up, one thing that really stood out to me was just that the intro is completely different. Obviously, yes. In the Whedon cut, there was the first scene when you open it up is the stupid cell phone scene where the mustache is CGI'd off of Henry Cavill and he looks like an idiot. And it's not necessarily terrible, that scene, like in and of itself. It's kind of like a cool gimmick with the cell phone footage in a movie. It's like, okay, whatever, it's kind of cool. That wasn't awful for me. And then I will say that it was a interesting opening scene with Batman where he's on the rooftops. I did like to see Batman in Gotham kind of doing Batman stuff. That was interesting in the Whedon cut. You know, that scene's not terrible, but he's trying to, like, you know, figure out who the parademons are. And then there's this weird thing where the parademon blows up on the wall, and then there are 3 boxes in the explosion of like the green blood on the wall. And it's like, oh, it's the mother boxes. It's like, this movie does a way better job of setting up the plot of the film, of what actually is happening here. Where
I feel like the best way to describe Joss Whedon is that I don't think every idea that he had was terrible. It just felt like a first draft idea for all of them. Like, it felt like it was the first draft of every single idea that he had. Like, the idea that Batman is sort of mentoring Flash, I don't think that's a bad idea. It's just such a weak execution of it because this isn't Whedon's film. He was trying to amend Zack's film, which just did not work, clearly.
Right. Arkham Gaming, thank you for the $5 donation. We will get to that at the end of this once we get through our preliminary thoughts, and we'll be sure to get your comment. But no, yeah, I completely agree. There were some things that were not bad, and it was interesting because I was in the Nerd Wars debate with that Andy Signore hosted, and when I was in that debate, Andy Signore made the point of like, well, you know, there are some moments in the Whedon cut that are actually better. And at first I was like, no, there's nothing that's better about it. But then you think about it more, and he did give Batman a few more things to do. I did kind of like the relationship between Batman and Wonder Woman. Not that it gets a little creepy at times where she's like, they're implying that it's romantic or about to be romantic. Yeah. That's not, I could do without that. It's like, whatever. But what I mean to say is that there's more of a bond that is built between Wonder Woman and Batman. There's more time that's just spent there as the two sort of leaders of the team, and that's not bad. That's certainly not a bad idea at all. So there's some good things in there that could be promising, but ultimately I think tonally the film is a little bit off. But I will say, and this was a point that I made in the debate actually, is I was surprised the amount of jokes that were Zack Snyder's.
Yes. Same.
Like the snack hole comment was Zack Snyder's? Like, what? Yeah.
I was watching this movie with my buddy, and that was literally like one of the first things I said to him when the credits were rolling. I was like, dude, the snack hole line was in the Snyder Cut.
Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, hold up. Is my camera not on? There we go. Okay, sorry, guys. I had my camera buried in the Streamlabs stack. Sorry about that. But yeah, there were a surprising amount of jokes, and I think what it really showed is that it showed some sort of tonal depth for Zack Snyder, who is criticized as being one-dimensional in terms of his filmmaking. But I think we did get to see him flex some of his muscles there. With BBS, obviously had a total of probably one joke in it. Is she with you? I thought she was with you. Besides that, the movie is horribly grim and depressing, which is fine. It's not bad. It doesn't bother me, but this film certainly has some comedy in it. It has some dry humor from Aquaman. It has some traditional upbeat sort of Marvel type of humor from The Flash. And I'm curious to know, by the way, what Salvo is going to think of The Flash in the movie.
Yeah, I've seen a few things that he said on Twitter. It seems like he really enjoyed it. That scene with Flash at the end in particular, he was like, "It's biblical."
It's so good.
But no, I'm also interested in Dustin's thoughts because he seems to be the most contrarian among us when it comes to things like
this.
He's
gonna think it's shit. He's gonna think it's shit.
You're right. He's gonna be like 4 out of 10. It was okay.
He's gonna be like,
I watched it 6 times over the weekend.
Hey, Greg, thank you for the donation, man. We'll get to it at the end of the chat. Thank you for the $2, bro. Okay, so yeah, movie opens way different than the Joss Whedon cut. It's a little bit interesting because it's like Superman lets out a scream, and then the mother boxes are basically sort of alerted or put on high alert because Superman dies, and that's where Steppenwolf goes on the rant to Darkseid where he's like, "No protectors here, no Kryptonians, no lanterns, whatever." So it's basically, just a rich dude, a bad science experiment, a fast guy, and Wonder Woman. And that's pretty much the team. And then, obviously, they do need to bring Superman back to life. And I will say that you can't make the argument that in any way the film structurally is that much different. I mean, the plot is the same. Apocalypse is trying to take over Earth. You have Desaad in there, and then you have Darkseid, which is cool, but fundamentally it's kind of the same idea. And by the way, those were very worthwhile addendums. Because now, and this is one of the things that we discussed in the movie fights, or excuse me, the Nerd Wars that used to be called movie fights. And the Nerd Wars was like, well, it doesn't really make any sense to include Darkseid because he's not going to get another movie. And my argument was like, well, we can't hold him responsible for the fact that when he was scripting this movie in 2015, he didn't know that he wasn't going to get another movie. Like, in his 2015 version of this film that he started working on 6 years ago, his plan was to include Darkseid, and that Darkseid plot would lead to something bigger. And unfortunately, that just didn't come to fruition. But I don't think that we can hold him responsible for that.
Yeah, and I think that actually sort of encapsulates why the Snyder Cut just fundamentally did not work when they handed it off to Joss Whedon. And to be fair, I don't think that this was strictly Joss Whedon's fault, because imagine being handed the extended edition, and this is a tweet that I made earlier, but imagine being handed the extended edition of Lord of the Rings Return of the King, which is 4 hours and 20 minutes, I believe, and being told, okay, now cut this down into 2 hours and it has to be funnier. The movie's going to be crap, like no matter who's at the helm. So yes, I don't think that Joss Whedon did a very good job cutting down Snyder's movie. But with that said, I don't think anyone could have with the mandate that Warner Brothers was trying to push, which, to be fair, I understand. They were really getting anxious after Batman vs. Superman isn't breaking $1 billion. It's being made fun of by the mainstream. It's not getting good reviews. And they're looking at Captain America Civil War and saying, okay, let's just make that movie instead. But then that comes with the expense of just losing the best moments of the entire film because you don't have the time to explain them. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like, you look at Steppenwolf as a villain, he was like the lamest DCEU CGI villain ever. But now that you have the context of Darkseid and Apocalypse and all of that, it makes him so much more sympathetic and interesting and a worthwhile villain. I was like, okay, I at least understand why Zack wanted to include him in the film rather than just like, why aren't they just going up against the Injustice League or something that makes more sense for a first outing?
Right. No, I totally agree with that. So, putting aside some of the first act differences, I think really in the first act, a lot of the main differences are just that the stories are actually fleshed out. And another thing that I said, I'm bringing up so many things that I said, but I mean, I kind of covered a lot of my points in the debate. But this film felt like a world-ending disaster picture that's kind of 2.5 hours of it with the dark side stuff, and then the other parts of it are kind of like these almost like these short films, these 25 minute short films with Cyborg and the Flash, where, you know, with the Flash you get backstory into Iris, you get to see him meeting Iris. I wouldn't say you get story, but you meet Iris. He talks to his father repeatedly in prison, and you kind of learn more about that character. And then with Cyborg, obviously, you get a lot with Cyborg and Silas Stone and Victor Stone and all of that. So that was one of the big differences, is that stuff is all stripped away in the Whedon cut. They're just there. And it's just like, here's Cyborg. He's sitting in his apartment and he is pissed off and we don't know why. And it's like, what? And then in this film, you kind of start to understand where he's coming from. Although I will say, I did not like Cyborg in the first and second act of the film, but towards the end I did like him. Yeah. I think the reason I didn't like him is because he seemed very whiny. For one, he blames his father for the fact that he was in this horrible accident and his mother died. Because
that
he
was the one line where he was like, if you were there, this never would have happened. I was like, elaborate, please. Like, how do you figure, dude?
Well, yeah, exactly. The assumption's like, well, if his father was there, maybe his father was going to drive. But that's like a weird thing. That's like, if you never invited me to that party and then I drove to that party and then got in a car accident and got paralyzed, so it's your fault I got paralyzed. It's like, really? Sure. And then also, he seems to forget the fact that his father, I don't know, saved his life because the dude was going to die without it. And it's like, bro, why are you, I don't know, you're getting a second chance at life, but sure, go ahead, pout in your bedroom or your apartment all day, whatever. So that's kind of weird. But towards the end of the film, he kind of realizes all these things and it makes him likable. But he just wasn't a character that I found to be likable in the first and second act. It took until the third act when he has that revelation.
I will say that reveal shot where he like turns his head and it looks like his eyes are glowing red was pretty epic.
Oh, in the third act?
No, in the first act. The first time you see him, he like turns his head and you don't see the robot side of him yet. You just see his face, but then you see like the glowing red eye from the other side.
Yeah.
That was an epic reveal shot.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I mean, the cinematography is really good in it. I think to me this film is more akin of like Lord of the Rings. That's what it reminded me of. Is it gave me very strong Lord of the Rings vibes.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I honestly thought that this was Snyder's best DC film by far. I like it a lot better than Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel, and I like both of those movies. But I think that from a visual standpoint, I honestly didn't mind the 4:3 aspect ratio. In fact, I came to really enjoy what it had to offer a few minutes into the movie. And really just a lot of these Snyderisms, like in Batman vs. Superman, my issue was that the plot was just so convoluted. And it still is here, to be fair, but he just has so much more time to really build out all of the plot points. And that's why I think that perhaps this whole Snyderverse should have been pitched originally as like some kind of HBO limited series or something, as opposed to like the mainstream take on the characters. Because I do understand why, even looking at this movie, I was watching this with my friend and his mom and stepdad, and his stepdad made an interesting point, which was that like there was no way that this 4-hour R-rated cut is going to be released in theaters. If this had been the theatrical cut, they would have cut it down to 3 hours maximum. And so then you would have seen a lot of those same criticisms that people had with Batman versus Superman, which is, okay, Flash's arc doesn't make sense. Okay, what is Steppenwolf doing? So I think that having the amount of time that he had, which really is the same as like a Lord of the Rings extended cut, where we get to follow this whole ensemble, really worked very well.
Yeah, definitely. So going into the second act, I thought that they really fleshed out the apocalypse side of things very well with Darkseid and Desaad. That lore, as I mentioned, really helped the film. I did think I did think that some scenes in the first act were a little bit unnecessary. I understand that they're going for the 4 hours, and it's at a certain point, it's like once you're at 3.5, it's like, just push it to 4, but
Well, yeah. When it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we're 2 hours in, and I still feel like I'm in the first act of the movie, it does get kind of like, all right, let's get going into some of the bigger plot points.
Exactly, and I think that some of the weakest points in the movie are where they're trying to explain the science of shit that's happening, where they're like, oh, we're going to turn the molten core of this thing, it's like super hot, and we're doing this and that. Or like anytime that Silas Stone is talking to the other scientist who happens to be the Atom, but like when they're talking, that's kind of dumb, because they're just like making shit up, and it's like, okay, wait, and they're just like using fancy science fiction words, and I'm like, I'm not following. Where is Steppenwolf
conversation?
Yeah, like where's Steppenwolf fighting on Themyscira? I just want to see more of that. So yeah, I think that going into the second act, it definitely picks up quite a bit. As soon as Gordon steps in, which is 2 hours in, from there, it's like all really, really well paced, well paced. But in the first 2 hours, there are probably a few things that maybe drag a little bit at times, and as you said, that's particularly the Silas Stone stuff. I thought was not always super engaging, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, agreed. And even moving into like the third act, but then also some of the scenes that were both in the Whedon cut and the Snyder cut, like when Batman meets Flash for the first time. So the friend that I was watching it with, we're both film students, and we both found it very interesting how the same scene can feel very different when it's set to a different score and when the sound effects are a little bit different, and just when you mess around with the audio and the color grading. Because the scenes here, and particularly the action scenes, in my opinion, felt like way more tense than they did in the Whedon cut, even though they're using a lot of the same footage. And yeah, I think that you're right. As they got into the second half of the movie, where you have a lot more of the action, and you have those great scenes between Steppenwolf when he's talking to Desaad, and then Darkseid. Those were all just fantastic and really fleshed out the characters and the villains. And even getting closer to the end, I mean, honestly, I had to look up the clip from the Whedon cut at the end of the movie to see how they beat Steppenwolf, because I'd forgotten. And in this movie, it's unforgettable.
Exactly.
I mean,
great
the
point.
stakes are so high. And this is a spoiler review, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So when they when they're like, he won, like Darkseid is coming through right now and destroying the planet. I was like, oh my, like, how did you get rid of this? And then you have Flash run back in time, and then they freaking decapitate Steppenwolf. Like, just that moment alone was so incredible. And I mean, that is the superhero moment of the film. That's like this movie's No Man's Land, or like the interrogation scene from The Dark Knight. It is like the shining moment that makes this movie kind of stand apart from other superhero movies. And so I was astounded at some of the stuff that was taken out. And again, I recognize that it wasn't an easy job. You're being told, okay, cut this 5-hour footage down to 2 hours and make it funnier. But there were some moments, like, how is that pivotal moment taken out?
Well, I think that one of the big things that Joss Whedon said is that there were like a lot of moments that he felt the audience wouldn't understand. Like, do you remember that scene where the Flash is blocking all of the debris that's going to fall on all the civilians?
Yeah.
Evidently, that's the first scene that he cut, because he's like, the audience isn't going to understand this. And that was the first scene that he pulled. And it's like, what? What are they not going to understand? I mean, he's running around walls and he's doing all this shit, and they can't understand that. By the way, we have over 100 viewers in here now. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. And by the way, if you want to send in a super chat, it's a great way to support the channel. And all those super chat comments and questions go to the top of the line in the chat. So send yours in now. We're going to probably talk for 5 more minutes, and then we're going to get into the Q&A section of the stream. So I feel that, really the strength of this film definitely is after the 2-hour mark. From there on, it's high-paced action. It's, they're sort of going around Gotham at first, and then, as I said, the structure is pretty similar, but you kind of add some bells and whistles. You add a decent amount with Clark Kent. You add with Superman visiting Alfred like it was in the trailer back in the day. Yeah, there were so many scenes that really provided a lot of depth and context to the film that I can't imagine them not having. And certainly these standout moments, you just have to think that they replaced the Flash reversing time and saving the world after Steppenwolf destroys the world. He replaced that with pushing a family in a truck. That was what Joss Whedon was like, this is going to be better. And it's because he approaches every movie like Marvel movies. And it's like, okay, well, we got to have the civilians that they're saving. Okay, we got to have the comedy. We've got to have...
Well, and to be fair, I think that if Justice League from the ground up was a Joss Whedon film. Now, I'm not defending Joss Whedon as a person. It seems like he's done a lot of pretty messed up stuff. With that said, if this was like a Joss Whedon movie from the beginning, like he wrote the script, I don't think it would be that bad. I think that it would be fine. It would be like an Avengers movie. But just the fact that he was trying to take something that was so tonally different and shape it into something else is what really just made it not work.
Right. So you're saying that if he had just like taken the script just like he did for the first Avengers movie and just basically made Avengers with DC characters, it would have been better.
Like if Zack Snyder was never attached and they were just like, hey, Joss can make a Justice League movie, I think it would have been fine. I'm not saying it would have been as good as Snyder's cut or anything. It would have been like Avengers or Age of Ultron.
Right, and I mean, it's very easy to do because it's like, okay, well, Aquaman is Thor, and you know, like you can just make one-to-one comparisons with pretty much every character, you know, and be like, okay, Wonder Woman is Scarlet Witch or whatever, however you want to, Black Widow probably.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, the standout moment of the film, like, okay, there were times that there's one time that I cried in the movie, and that was in the scene where they're in the cornfield and Clark is reunited with his mother in the cornfield. That exact scene is pretty similar in the Whedon cut, but it is, for whatever reason, way better in this cut. Just because you're more immersed in the movie. There's more meat to the movie, and you're not just cutting from scene to scene to scene to scene and like rushing through the action scenes.
Did he even talk to his mom in the Whedon cut? I thought that she just like started running toward him or something. I don't even remember.
Probably.
They had a conversation. I don't remember. But yeah, you're right, because then after that in the Whedon cut, he just runs in and he's part of the Justice League, whereas here you get that Man of Steel callback where you're hearing both Pa Kent and then also Jor-El talking to him, and you're hearing those memories and flashbacks as he's like suiting up, and it just really emphasizes the importance of his return versus just like, yeah, I'm back, and then, you know, the I don't not like you line or whatever.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
And then like the cringe after they win the battle against Steppenwolf, and then they're laughing. And Cyborg's like, my toes hurt. I don't even know the physics of how my toes hurt. And then Superman laughs, and then Diana's like, children, I work with children. And that
as opposed to them decapitating Steppenwolf and sending his head through a portal, which Doomsday stomps on, or Darkseid, excuse me, stomps on, and is like, we'll do it the old way. And does like the whole, like, that had the same energy as when Thanos like grabbed it, was like, I'll do it myself.
Dude, that was like the DC badass equivalent. That was so good. Yeah, so I mean, I think our recap and sort of review is that this cut of the movie is vastly superior to the Joss Whedon cut. It vaguely, the funny thing is that it has more heart than the Whedon cut. That's the funny thing, is that yes, the Whedon cut, it has more comedy and it has a certain tonal consistency to it, I would say, probably. But the Snyder cut has more heart. It just makes you feel something more. And the funny thing is, like, this is what I was also arguing yesterday, is they're like, oh, it's so dark and depressing this movie is. And I'm like, the plot of the movie is aliens are coming to destroy the world, and 6 people have to prevent that from happening. So where's the comedy that would make it work? Because I feel like if you would have comedy, then it would just feel off. And that was the problem with the first one, is it's like, and that's the problem with every Marvel movie, is like there's this world-ending threat, and then they're just like joking around. But it's like, you either just shouldn't have the world-ending threat, or at least they balanced that out kind of well in Infinity War a little bit, I thought.
Yeah, they did. And I actually felt like that was sort of the level that this one was on, because even though, yeah, it wasn't as funny, there were a few moments where I laughed consistently, like when Superman knocks Flash into Aquaman, and then at the end of the fight, Aquaman's just like giving him the finger, like, dude. Like, there's that, or when they're like, how are we going to do this, Barry? And he's like, with the power of love. And just like, it's still kind of cringy to an extent, but it feels true to the characters, and it doesn't necessarily feel forced. It feels authentic to what they've been building up through the dialogue. And so, yeah, I think that there was a much better balance here. It never felt forced to me. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there were one or two lines that still felt a little forced, but overall, I enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, we're now moving into the Q&A section of the show. We're probably going to go for 30 more minutes, so if you have any questions, any comments, any opinions on our thoughts, please get them in. Again, I'd also love to see if everyone drop their rating in the chat from 1 to 10 of what you thought of the movie, and Jake and I will be reviewing that. We have a few super chats. We're going to go through those, so if you have any other questions, any other comments, any other things you'd like us to discuss, anything you want us to give our opinions on that we didn't already, send in your super chats now. That would be greatly appreciated. Arkham Gaming with a $5 donation. We all know the reason of the article, because WB is scared because we know Jason Kilar, CEO of Warner Media, are going to greenlight the Justice League, Zack Snyder Justice League sequel. So this was in regards to the article that came out today. Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so basically a recap for everyone unaware. Arkham Gaming, and thanks again, Arkham Gaming, for the super chat. Arkham Gaming here is referring to an article that came out today where the CEO of Warner Media basically was interviewed about a number of things. He discussed the Ayer cut, and it was kind of hilarious because he outright was like, he just gave a very short answer. He's like, we're not making the Ayer cut, dog. Like, it's not happening. And this raises an interesting question. And I knew this was going to happen. Because what they essentially did was they said for years, we are not making the Snyder Cut. It's not happening. And then after a while, the money was too much to offer, whatever, and they caved and they made it. So now, whenever they say, okay, we made the Snyder Cut, we're not going to make the Snyder Cut sequel. What do you think all the fans are thinking? They're thinking, yeah, right.
They're thinking game on.
Fuck yeah. We're gonna show them. We're gonna beat them down into submission again, and they're gonna make this goddamn sequel is what they're gonna do. So it's never gonna end, because they said fans were all pushing, we want the Snyder Cut, and they're like, no, we're not making the Snyder Cut. And then fans pushed for like another year straight, and then they're like, nope, we're not doing it. And then another year of just insane Twitter spam and like fucking passion and everything. It's like, I respect it, whatever, it's fine with me, it doesn't bother me. I'm not the one on the WB accounts like getting fucking cussed out every day, so whatever. And after several years, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're gonna make the Snyder Cut, and they're never gonna live that down. Like, no. Literally, they're never gonna hear the end of it on the Ayer Cut, ever. They're never going to hear the end of it on Snyder Cut Part 2. Justice League Part 2.
Let me just be very clear. I think they're serious. I think they're dead serious in this article, and I don't think that they're greenlighting the sequel anytime soon, if they do. And I think that they have no intention of doing it. And I was actually listening to Andy Signor today, and he was making good points of like, look, if Snyder Cut was like this gigantic success, they would be spinning that. HBO Max needs subs. They would be bragging about how great the Snyder Cut is, how many people are watching it. And so the fact that this is what they're saying instead of like, no, we're done with the Snyderverse, that is not really very promising. And I always see like all of this, like, why aren't you guys looking at the success of the Snyder Cut and BVS? And really, if you're a WB exec, you're looking at that and saying, Aquaman did better. Aquaman broke $1 billion. Joker did better. An R-rated movie that was a psychological thriller about Joker did better. And so, is a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League possible? Is the Ayer Cut possible? Yes, but the right people have to be in charge, and you have to understand the Ayer Cut would probably not be a big deal. But doing like a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League is not the $70 million that it took to finish the Snyder Cut, which really was just content for HBO Max. And that is a multi-million-dollar miniseries or multi-$100 million miniseries that they're then committing that much money to. So I don't think that it's as inevitable as a lot of people would like it to be. I'd like to see more. I would be down for Justice League 2 and 3. I just don't foresee that happening. But I think that you're absolutely right in the sense that the fact that a lot of the fans perceive this as a win, as we pushed for this so hard that it happened, which is technically the truth. And so, yeah, you're right. This will never be lived down.
And you think about it like this, too. This film cost $70 million, putting aside the fact that the original Justice League lost money, and that made $650 million. So we're talking about making $650 million and losing money. That gives you context of how expensive these things are. Yes, if they were to make a sequel, it would cost roughly, in terms of budget, production budget, probably $300 to $350 million, and in regards to a marketing budget, roughly double that. So you're looking at around $600 million break-even point. So, yeah, it's incrementally more than BVS. It's not impossible. But here's the other problem. Now, it's not like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War where everyone has seen all the other movies. This is like a niche thing that, you know, they then couldn't release the Snyder Cut sequel in theaters because it's only been seen by HBO Max. And here's the other thing, $70 million divided by 15, that's the cost of HBO Max. They need to generate 4.6 million new subscribers to break even. And I don't know if they got 4.6 million subscribers off of this. It seems unlikely.
Again, you would probably be hearing a lot of news reports of it breaking even if it did.
Right. So yeah, if you take that 70 million divided by $15, that's basically 4.5 million signups. Now, to be fair, I'm one of those people. I did sign up just to watch the Snyder Cut. So, okay, I'm one of the 4.6 million. But did they really, I think in Twitter we're kind of in an echo chamber where we think things are bigger than they are. I don't know if we ask the average Joe. Like, if I ask my mom, what the fuck is the Snyder Cut, she'd be like, I don't know. I mean, she saw the theatrical cut of Justice League because I made her watch it. I've made her watch every DC movie. I made her watch Suicide Squad. I made her watch BVS. I made her watch Justice League. And she actually likes all of them. She likes BVS. Although, dude, that movie is like... God, that movie is...
I understand why people have issues with it.
Dude, that movie, if you're not like a hardcore DC fan, I feel like that movie's a drag.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. It just, it sucks your soul away when you watch it. And you've just got to be like, not in the way that it's not good. I mean, everybody knows I think it's good, but you've just got to be in the mood to watch it. That's all I'll say about it.
Right. Well, and that's exactly, I mean, to be fair, I mean, even though we're saying this and sort of like doubting a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League, I mean, what did you give it out of 10? I just said I gave it an 8.
A 9.
9, yeah. So I think that both of us would be technically part of that group that's like clamoring for a restoration of the Snyderverse. Like, we'd both be totally on board seeing Justice League 2 and 3. So when you hear us saying like we don't think it's going to happen, that's not us being like downers about it or just not wanting it to happen or wanting to see Snyder get pushed out. It's literally just that the like logistics of it seem really far-fetched.
Exactly. And yeah, there's so many problems with getting it done. There are issues in regards to the fact that now this version of the film has not been seen by everyone. It's not even canon to the DCEU, and I understand that we're trying to restore it. And then you're talking about, you know, not a $70 million picture, but basically a $550, $600 million picture to bring back Ben Affleck and do all this shit. Like, oh my God, do you understand how expensive that would be? Because the actors have all the leverage. Their contracts are expired, and they're not planning on coming back. So that's going to Ben Affleck and buying him out. And he knows that he would have all the leverage in that situation to ask for like $80 million to make one movie. Yeah. So, dude, that's a nightmare. I'm going to be honest with you, Arkham Gaming. This is a long answer to your question, but hey, you send it with a super chat, so I'd like to support, give you a thorough answer. I really do not think that we're going to get a Zack Snyder Justice League sequel, but for all the reasons that I mentioned, it's happened before when everyone said it was never going to happen. Never say never, but I'll just say this and end on this note. Getting a sequel to the Snyder Cut is more of an uphill battle than getting the Snyder Cut, which already was a gigantic uphill battle. So just like think about whatever the uphill battle was to get the Snyder Cut and multiply that by like 15, and you have the odds of getting a sequel to it.
Yeah. And I will concede that I've been a skeptic about the Snyder Cut the whole time. I was like, it probably doesn't exist. And then I was like, you know what? If it does exist, it's probably just a few deleted scenes. And then I was like, okay, yeah, it's 4 hours, but it's probably not that good. It's probably Batman versus Superman, the extended cut. And then it came out, and it got the 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, but that's probably just because of the nature of how it was released. It's probably still a 23% if it had released back in 2017. I watched it. I was like, nope, 70% is totally perfectly deserved. It is that good. So and I like Zack Snyder as a person. He seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah.
I just was definitely a skeptic. I was on that negative, pessimistic side this entire time. And looking back, I mean, I kind of regret that because I enjoyed the movie so much, so I almost feel a little guilty. And I'm so happy he got to make the movie, especially because of what he went through in his family. I think that's really tragic. And so just being able to sort of finish this film, I think that that's something that is just so important, not only for the community, but also for him. I'm sure that that was something that was really important for him to get out there. But with that said, I'm just conceding that if a sequel was announced, I don't think I'd be as surprised as I currently think I would be. I think that I'd be like, oh, okay, as opposed to like, holy crap, what are they doing? But yeah, you're 100% right in that, we're looking at something that's going to be 15, 20 times harder to do than just to get the Snyder Cut.
Right. And the Snyder Cut, we already had a lot of that footage. And yeah, now you're talking about shooting a film from nothing.
Yep.
Whew, that'll be tricky. All right, next super chat is from Greg Pop. Release the Greg Pop cut of Arkham Origins. I don't know what that is, Greg Pop. What is the Greg Pop cut of Arkham Origins?
Wasn't that their rewrite that they did? Where they rewrote Arkham Origins?
Oh, right. And I mentioned that I was going to have him on to discuss the differences between the Greg Pop cut and.
Dude, we should have him on ATD. We should have him on Anonymous Throwdown. And we could
Greg,
all kind of.
Greg, would you be down for that? Let us know, Greg.
Evan Falarka says Slickmoff cut when?
Wait, I mean, did he just now say that, or is that up higher?
No, that was a while ago.
Oh,
I used to people all the time like, dude, you and Slickmoff should write the Ben Affleck Batman movie, and I'm like, Warner Brothers would never hire us to do that, but it would be the best Batman movie you've ever seen.
Oh, it would be sick. I kind of have a pitch. I mean, we all have pitches for Batman movies. Right. It's not impressive, but I do have one main change that I would make to Batman in my. But broadly speaking, if I'm at the helm of a Batman movie, my job is just to make like an actual comic book Batman movie that honors the animated series, honors the 90s comics that made Batman who he is, today, honors the Arkham games, and that's pretty much it. I'm not trying to that's the biggest problem with Batman is every person that tries to make a Batman movie tries to do their basically you made a great point in the way you phrased it one time. You're like, every director just makes their movie with Batman in it. It's like Chris Nolan is just making a Chris Nolan trilogy that just happens to have Batman in it, which is very true. Like Tenet and The Dark Knight are very similar in terms of their style, in terms of like so many different things. Yep. And that's ultimately what the Dark Knight trilogy is. And it's the same thing with 1989. It's the same thing with, BVS, is it's like, we need somebody who's going to come in and be humble enough to not try to make like, this is my Batman. And it's like, we just want someone to make the Batman.
Yep.
But unfortunately, filmmakers like have too much of an ego and they want it to be theirs. They want it to be like, I did something no one else did. And just by making the animated series, 90 comics, Arkham style Batman, you actually are doing something no one else has done before, because every live action Batman is like fucking way out of left field, where like in some Batman they'll use grenades to kill people. That's well, actually that's in BVS and 1989. There are people calling in strafing runs on people. That's unheard of. Never seen that before in any comic unless you're going back to 1940.
Yeah.
There's just weird shit in there, and it's like in all the movies, Batman is just a genocider, and you just fucking murks people, and I don't know where they're getting that from. It's just because they're just making stuff up. And the other thing is that you have directors. Okay, now I'm gonna throw shade at Zack Snyder. You have directors who are like, well, other directors did it, so that's why I did it. And it's like, what? That's not a good reason. Do you have any original thought?
Yeah.
Like, that's literally the reason Zack Snyder gave for why Batman kills. He's like, well, he killed in the 1989 Batman, and he killed in the Dark Knight Batman, and he killed in blah, 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 Batman.
And it's unrealistic if he doesn't. That was my favorite response. I'm like, dude, you have Doomsday walking around Gotham City in your movie.
Yeah, you have a fucking 60-foot tall Ninja Turtle jumping around. And that, yeah, like, okay. All right, bro. But anyway, Zack Snyder's great. Great movie. Great. Love Justice League.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the $2, Greg Pop. We will get on releasing the Arkham Origins Greg Pop cut.
We'll do everything in our power.
Yes. So we're getting a lot of questions about ATD. Assault Anakin asks, can all the mods be on ATD to discuss the toxic workplace of the Slick Mob chat? This is not a toxic workplace. They're going to ask
for me to be let go. They're going to be like, get rid of Iragen.
There's 120 people in here. Y'all can handle it. I believe you. You know, it's a lot of people, but you guys can handle it. Shawrick says, love Martian Manhunter in Justice League. Great. Glad to hear it. Release the Neo Cut hype. Get the mods on ATD. Could happen at some point.
Yeah.
By the way, I'd like to have my friend Gavin join.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're down to have him join. Okay. I'm probably gonna invite him to discuss the Snyder Cut. He'll have many thoughts, and he'll be a good balance because he's not like a huge DC shill, so it's good.
Yeah.
He's more of a Marvel guy. I saw the Marvel movies with him back in college, and so he's big into the MCU and stuff, so he'll be a good counterbalance to have. Everyone's asking about Anonymous Throwdown. I don't know when we're going to do it this week, probably either tomorrow or Wednesday if I had to guess, but I'll follow up after this and see when we'll do it, but it's going to be pretty heavy Snyder Cut. It'll be kind of an extension of this.
Yeah, we'll probably do that and like life advice questions, and that will probably be the whole show.
Right.
If I had to guess, we might do one or two other things.
Yeah. Okay, can everyone put in their rating for the Snyder Cut from 1 to 10 again? I know you guys all did it earlier, but I missed it. Going back through. Hold up. Admiral Snackbar gives it a 9. Thunder XDC gives it a 9. Marvel's Reporter gives it a 10. M Enterprises 8.5. 9.5. Signed Vic 8. Bat Super 10. Elazor 9. Invictus Samaritan 10. Jonathan Rodriguez 8. Batman v Superman aka Neo 10. LP3 9. Lefty 10. Better than Endgame. Rob 8. Assault Anakin 8. Arkham Gaming 10. Greg Pop 10. Greg Pop is a paid shill. I don't believe that. Oh, everyone's spamming their score. Snyder 6 out of 10 from Ulysses. Damien gave it an 8. Gotham Guardian gave it a 9. Arkham Gaming with $5 more. Thank you for the $5 donation. Once again, Arkham Gaming. He says, the regime at WB has got to go. AT&T has to fire them. They interfered with Zack's vision. We will get a sequel announcement soon, but they have to go.
Okay, can I take this one first?
Of course.
Okay. So, dude, I've just got to say that this is a misconception that I see all the time when it comes to Zack Snyder, which is that everybody thinks that Zack Snyder is the only person who's faced studio interference. I hate to be the one to say it, but the reason that there was so much studio interference is because they were trying to make different movies. Warner Brothers was trying to make Avengers. Zack Snyder was trying to make Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And so that's where you got all that studio interference. And that's why when you hear like, oh yeah, David F. Sandberg got to make Shazam with very little studio interference. Like literally the only thing that they wanted different was the song that played during the montage. And the reason is because they were both very much on the same page of what movie they were making. And so this should be a lesson for both Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder that you do not sign a deal that you are not on the same page with. Because Warner Brothers was trying to make the MCU equivalent of the DC movie franchise. And whenever you're working on a movie of this scale, there are going to be executives and producers on your set every single day. So I see a lot of people who are like, when I direct my Superman movie, dude, if you're ever in the position to direct a Superman movie, and I'm not saying that to be like some pretentious film student, I'm just saying that factually, if you are running a Superman set, you will have someone from Warner Brothers on the set every day watching literally every direction you give and then saying, actually, we don't want that. They'll be looking through your script saying, we don't want that character in the movie because we're going to use him in the TV show. So it's just difficult because I totally understand the frustration, but this is not native to Zack. And unfortunately, it's just the way that these movies are made. And if Warner Brothers has a different direction that they want to go, that's the one they're going to go with, not Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I think you make good points. Here's the other thing, Arkham Gaming, is that I don't know that AT&T interfered with Zack's vision. Here's what is true. I think that WB was looking for a way to get Zack out, and unfortunately the tragedy of his daughter was a convenient alignment because they did already agree and greenlight his movie, and there were clear creative differences between WB and Zack Snyder. As you mentioned, the Lord of the Rings difference versus Marvel Avengers, that's a perfect way to put it. And they knew that Joss Whedon could do that's why they hired Joss Whedon, is because Jake is exactly right. That's literally what they wanted, is they just wanted Marvel version of DC, basically. And so when Zack's daughter passed away, unfortunately, he had to leave the project for obvious reasons. And then WB was kind of like, ooh, this is not saying they celebrated it, but they're like, well, everything is kind of aligned for us. We wanted to get rid of Zack Snyder, and we wanted to bring in someone like Joss Whedon or someone like James Gunn to make this movie. Joss Whedon's coming in. They hired James Gunn, and they tried to Marvelize the DCEU and basically get rid of Snyder. And to some extent, you understand why, because BVS only made $850 million. It should have made, the fact that it's Batman versus Superman, it should have made $2 billion. It should have been the freaking biggest movie ever. So, you can understand why they were sort of antsy to maybe get someone in who has experience with movies that made $1 billion, as Joss Whedon does.
Yeah.
But Arkham Gaming, by no means do I disagree with you that I'm on the side of Zack Snyder more than AT&T and WB. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But for one, the regime at WB is unlikely to go anywhere at this point. I mean, Walter Hamada just got a fat contract extension. So I will agree that they interfered with Zack's vision. There were disagreements, so I would agree with that point. That's a valid point. I don't agree that we'll get a sequel announcement soon. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, and again, I appreciate you donating again, but dude, I don't know.
I really appreciate his passion and drive, because I think that that's what a great movie does, is it gets you fired up for the next one.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate the passion, and I totally understand why it's frustrating. You feel like there's this director who's just trying to make a really solid movie, because it was a great movie, and Warner Brothers stepped in and got really cold feet. And while I do understand why they got cold feet, I also don't. It's difficult because a lot of times those executives are not really watching the movie. They're not watching to see if it's this great film from Zack Snyder. They're just saying, logistically, how will this probably do at the box office? And so then they're just throwing things in the movie that don't really work. So I totally understand where you're coming from, Arkham Gaming. And I realize that my statement probably makes me sound like I'm, coming down on you. And that's not the case at all. I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm just trying to bring in the experience that I've had. And sorry to cut you off, Kobe. I just wanted to
No, you make a great point. But thank you again for your thoughts, Arkham Gaming. And I will just say I truly hope you're right. I hope that is the case, that we get a sequel. I would love that. I think that would be great. I, for one, like the idea of them building out this broader DC extended universe. I don't like the idea that we're just going to have these one-off solo stories. I think that's kind of lame. And in the wake of Infinity War and Endgame, I don't understand why I would get excited for a bunch of solo movies. Like, the solo movies are the least interesting part about the MCU, if you go back and rewatch it. Like, the part where it gets fun is when you start having cameos in Civil War, and that, like, when shit starts going down, that's when it gets fun. So no, I don't want to see a bunch of fucking solo movies with C-list characters. I mean, I'll watch them, but it's like, it doesn't get me as excited as something like Justice League or something. But
well, and even if it's a character like the Flash, it's more exciting if he's getting a solo movie than like, I don't know, Blue Beetle. I'm excited, I guess, but at the you know what I mean, where it's just a different tier of character development.
Totally.
Or Zatanna, the one that they talked about today.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm really behind on Super Chats. We have 3 more coming in. Greg Pop with a $2 donation. Shh, they don't know I work for WB. Greg, you wish you worked for WB. You wish, buddy.
Don't we all?
That'd be pretty sick.
Don't we all?
That'd be pretty sick. If you worked for WB, what would you want to do? Like, you could only get one project. It doesn't have to be DC. It could be, it could be like King Kong or something. I don't know. What would you do?
That's a really good question. Because honestly, Warner Brothers owns like all of my favorite properties. If I could only do one project, I would really push. I love Batman so much, but I'd probably push for a Superman film or trilogy if I could. I have like I always tell people like never write a spec script for an existing IP because it will never get made. But then here I am and I have like this whole outline for a Superman trilogy. So that's definitely what I'd go with.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay. Yeah, I'd do a Batman trilogy for sure. I'd definitely do that. Snag that up. But it wouldn't be a traditional Batman trilogy. I mean, it would be a Bat family trilogy.
Yeah.
It would have a like equal focus on Barbara Gordon, Dick Grayson, and Alfred, and all of that.
Yeah, I think we're kind of both in that boat where we're tired of just getting the same Batman story and even the same Superman story. Like mine would have a huge emphasis on Supergirl, for example.
Dude, that would be so sick. Like, I don't know if you've read the New 52 Supergirl, where Supergirl fucking drops down, and then Superman is the one that greets her. And is like, who is this? And then he sees the S. It's not an S. Okay, I know. Whatever. He sees that. He sees that on her, and then he's like, "What the fuck? You're an imposter!" And then they start fighting in Russia. It's badass. It's so cool. So anyway, yeah, we gotta mix it up, people. These solo movies, like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't even. And I'm literally gonna lose like 20 viewers, so I'm not gonna get into Matt Reeves. But. Bro, what are you doing? You're blowing it, dog. Like, he is blowing it. He is.
I have faith in it, but
he's
only
blowing
if he gets
it.
a sequel, which again isn't guaranteed. If he gets a sequel and can introduce Robin and Batgirl and all of those characters, then I think it would be worth the first movie really setting up this version of Batman and Gotham. But if this is just some one-off, then yeah, I agree with you. Like, I feel like I've already kind of seen the movie.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we get it. It's really, really dark, and it's really, really okay. It's a early in his career, realistic take on Riddler. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. Okay, next. Not saying I'm not gonna watch it. I'm just saying it's not gonna. I don't know. I'm not like chomping at the bit to see what they do with the Riddler, who doesn't even look like the Riddler.
They better have something pretty big that really pushes this one as something that can continue with a bigger ensemble cast at some point if they do a sequel.
Indeed. Jonathan Rodriguez donates $2. Message retracted. Oh, okay. I didn't get to it fast enough. He retracted the message, but thank you for the $2, Jonathan. And Greg Pop donates $2 and says hashtag Luke Wayne Gang. Thank you for the $2. $2 well spent. Arkham Gaming with $5 more. I like this. We got a continuing dialogue here. Arkham Gaming is back with his retort. His third donation of $5. He says, I think WB will keep failing. They're trying to copy Marvel, and they don't care about the fans. They don't deserve these characters. I don't disagree with most of that, Arkham Gaming. I don't disagree. What they're trying to do is they're trying to emulate Marvel because they're like, well, look over there. They've made the MCU, and that works. They made a lot of money, so let's just do that. Let's just do that with DC characters. And on a surface level, Arkham Gaming and Jake, you're like, okay, well, that's kind of true. You have a lot of characters that are pretty similar. As I mentioned, you have all these characters you can kind of draw one-to-one comparisons. Aquaman is Thor, Batman is Iron Man, Superman is Captain America, whatever. And we can kind of go through it, and you can kind of replicate the Marvel model, but here's the problem, is that DC characters are not the same as Marvel characters. Even though there's this
Correct.
surface level comparison and they seem that way, they're really not. And the fan bases are different. In my experience, DC fans tend to be a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and tend to enjoy. And it's just because of what you get attached to. Like, what really revived my love for DC was The Dark Knight, which is a very dark, very gritty, realistic movie, right? So then off of that, then I started reading The Dark Knight. Then I started reading Legends of the Dark Knight, which is from the 1989 Batman. That's when that started. So, like, I went down the rabbit hole, and what I got really into is that. And even the kid shows, like the animated series is pretty, for a kid show, it's not SpongeBob. We'll just say that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you turn it into the latest Spider-Man cartoon, it's like made for like 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
So there is a difference in the audience, and there's a difference in the appeal, and it would be a mistake to just say, well, we're just gonna. So Arkham Gaming, I totally agree with you. I actually do agree with you that WB, they're going to fail in trying to just emulate Marvel. That's what they did with Justice League, and it flopped and lost money. So you can't just do what they're doing.
Yeah, I will say that I'm giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I don't know that they're necessarily moving into like a one-to-one recreation of Marvel. And I actually see this a lot, of this notion that Warner Brothers is failing with their DC properties. I don't think that's true, to be honest. Because, yes, is Aquaman a much more lighthearted look at the character than Zack Snyder wanted? Yeah, it is. But did it make $1 billion at the box office? Yeah. So Warner Brothers is not looking at these films as failures. They're even looking at Shazam, and it wasn't a huge hit or anything. But, I mean, it made back its money, and it was well received. And they're looking at Birds of Prey, which did pretty good for an R-rated, low-budget superhero movie. They're looking at Joker, which was an R-rated, low-budget movie that made back $1 billion. And so I think that there is strength in variety, and I don't know that DC has lost that altogether. Now, I will say that there are some films like Justice League that feel very Marvelized, but then you also get, Wonder Woman 1984, and even though it is much more lighthearted and not as gritty as Snyder's vision of Wonder Woman, it's a very unique take on the character, and a very risky take. I know that may not sound accurate just based on what the movie was, but to make a superhero movie that is so like such a callback to like a Richard Donner film from the 70s or 80s is a pretty risky decision. And again, it doesn't always pay off. Not all of the movies have been drastic hits, but at the same time, I don't think that they're in this pattern where they can only survive if Zack Snyder is the person behind it. I do think you're 100% right, Arkham Gaming, in the fact that they can't just replicate Marvel. That is a recipe for disaster, as we've seen with movies like Justice League. But I'm going to have to wait and see what some of these films look like. We're seeing The Suicide Squad from James Gunn, which I believe is going to be R-rated as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think that you're absolutely right. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily the preset destination that they've selected.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. Everyone.
Yeah, no, sorry. I've talked through like 6 new super chats.
Oh, no, you're totally good. We'll keep it rolling here. $2 from Shawwick Sells Internet, who just became a member, by the way. Thank you for that, Shawwick. He says, we want Luke Wayne back. Luke Wayne back from the City streams and the Asylum streams. Okay, well, I'm about to do the Arkham Knight stream, so I'm totally down to have him if he wants to come on. That would be a blast. So yeah, I really like doing Asylum and City. That dude is an encyclopedia about Arkham City. It is ridiculous.
Turn around that crevice and you'll find the Riddler trophy right there. I'm like,
bro, I think he knows where all 400 Riddler trophies are by heart in Arkham City. Or it'll be like, there'll be these parts where it's like, the parts where you have to track someone's, scent or like their blood, whatever.
Yeah, he knows like where they end
up.
Yeah,
he'll be like, no, just go over here, go here, and you'll just bypass it. And I'm like, what?
If I was ever like given permission to do an Arkham remake where I could like remake Arkham Asylum, I would literally move like 3 trophies just to troll him.
And he's like, what? This is impossible. Where do they go? Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, thank you for the $2. Although I don't think he knows Night as well as Asylum and City. That's my understanding. But
That's fair.
I could,
Yeah.
but that is fair. I know Night the best.
I've
Night
platinumed
is my
all
bread
three
and butter.
games over the. I don't know. I'm not as well versed as Luke Wayne, but I platinumed all 3 games over the pandemic. So.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Night is my bread and butter. I know that shit well.
I just gotta brag a little bit while I can.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
one of the few things I've accomplished over the last year. So.
Greg Pop, Slickmoff is evil. Slickmoff, agree to our terms now. Release the Luke Wayne. Release Luke Wayne. Luke Wayne cut. Okay, wait, we have more super chats. Okay. $5 from Jonathan Rodriguez. What do you think about the Joker killing off Dick Grayson's Robin in the Justice League sequel during the Nightmare Vision? I'll let you take this. What did you think about the decision to kill Dick Grayson Robin instead of Jason Todd Robin in this universe? Granted, it doesn't seem like it's going to matter a whole lot, as to the sense that the only way we even know that is because Zack Snyder said it, and it's in one of those like BVS books that you can buy for like $70 at a Barnes and Noble. Besides that, I don't know that we would ever know that it was Dick Grayson, because all he does is he looks up and he's like, oh, it's Robin. And then in the Snyder Cut, they allude to the fact that Robin is dead, but they don't say anything about who it is.
So I've honestly never been that up in arms about it, because I've always sort of understood that Zack Snyder's take on DC is sort of an Elseworlds story. It's not a one-to-one recreation of the comic books. It's not the way I would have done it. I'm fine with it being Dick Grayson personally, because it ultimately is it achieves the same goal, which is that Joker, paralyzed Barbara Gordon, potentially. We don't even know if she really exists in this universe, but we can assume that she might. And then, you have Robin who dies. And I think that the trauma that Bruce Wayne is going to suffer as a result is going to be similar with whichever Robin it is. And if you're telling a story about Batman's trauma and Bruce's trauma, it's simplified if you only have one Robin to work with. If you're telling a story about the Bat family, then you absolutely want it to be Jason Todd. If you're telling a story where Red Hood is going to come back, then yeah, you absolutely want it to be Jason Todd. If it's just a story about Batman's trauma, then I don't have a problem with it being Dick Grayson. My problem is more with how they executed it, in the sense that it was never shown on screen. It was something that Snyder was always like, oh, we're going to save this for like 3 movies down the line. And I don't know, after seeing the Snyder Cut, I do understand some of the payoff, and he really is way more clever than a lot of people like to give him credit for, in the sense that he'll build something into the film that makes 0 sense, like the nightmare scene, and then in the next film you're like, oh, I get it now. With that said, I think that Batman's arc in Batman versus Superman is pretty much non-existent. Now, if we'd seen a flashback to Robin's death, if the opening scene was not the Thomas and Martha Wayne death scene, and instead we're watching Dick Grayson get, beat and then killed by Jared Leto's Joker, then I think that, and then you could have Alfred make some reference of like, it hasn't been the same since Master Dick died or something.
Right.
Then that makes a lot more sense. So my issue isn't necessarily with them killing off Dick Grayson. It's more with just the execution, that it was never shown on screen. And then Zack Snyder was like, oh yeah, we were going to write a comic about it. And it's like, well, that's not really the same. You kind of need it to be in the movie. Like, I want to visually see this happen, as opposed to kind of just having it be hinted at. Because they didn't even reference it. Even if it had come up in a conversation, like since Robin died or something, I think that would have added a lot to where he was as a character. And instead it's just like these weird, vague, I don't know. What do you think about it?
No, I completely agree. Look, it's not the biggest deal for me that there's only one Robin, because here's the other thing, is that I will concede this. If we are making movies about the Bat family, it does get super complicated. Like, I always use the analogy of let's ask 100 people on the street, right? That's what I always like to do when people will give ideas. Like, this is the argument that I'd always make, that we'd never get a Bat family game. I'd be like, let's ask 100 people on the street, who the fuck is Nightwing? And 100 people, like grandmas, grandpas, everyone we ask out of 100, how many people are going to know who Nightwing is? 6, 7, maybe 10, the cartoon's pretty popular. But my point is, let's ask 100 people, did you know there are like 17 Robins? They'd be like, what? There's just Robin. So at a certain point, you confuse people if you try to make it too complicated, and you include, oh, here's Robin number 1, and then Robin number 1 dies, and then Robin number 2 comes in, and then he also dies and gets revived by this person in the Lazarus pit, and it's like, what? you've already lost grandma and grandpa who are just trying to watch a Batman movie. So I do think that it is wise to simplify it. I do agree with that. I think if I were to make a Batman movie, I would have one Robin, I would have one Nightwing, I would have one Batgirl, and I wouldn't have like Stephanie Brown and Barbara Gordon, all these people, because people are just going to get mind fucked. Like they're not going to be able to follow what's going on unless you're a hardcore fan. So I do agree with the level of compromise that the movie does have to compromise and include some tidbits for the general audiences. It can't just expect everyone to know what's going on. Because frankly, 10 years ago, when I watched The Dark Knight, I didn't know what was going on. When I watched The Dark Knight Rises, and they're like, what's your name? Robin. Everybody understands that. And it's like, yes, that's stupid. His name's not Robin. It's like either Dick or Jason or Tim or whatever. Now everybody understands that. But if you're not a avid fan, then the only thing that you understand there is like, oh, it's Robin. Okay, I get it. It's the sidekick. It's the replacement for Batman, whatever. So yeah, I think I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Even as you were talking, I don't know, like something that you said earlier about just the Batman movies and stuff in general. I don't know what it's, and we can get back to super chats, but just briefly, like, what would you think if they did something like A Serious House on a Serious Earth as a film? Like, imagine a movie where it's like Under the Red Hood, except the Red Hood is just a figment of Batman's like grief and guilt, as opposed to actually like literally being a zombie of Jason Todd or something, like, like going in a more psychological thriller direction instead of like this spy thriller noir thing that they do every single time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that any graphic novel that I can think of, including Batman Hush, you kind of have to have other elements included. Certainly, if we're talking about a Madhouse on a Serious Earth, if we're talking about The Killing Joke, you're going to have to add stuff. That's why even with the animated movie that's an hour, they had to add shit to The Killing Joke. Because if you turn it into an animated movie, I mean, I read The Killing Joke. It takes, I'm going to say, 35 minutes to read if you read it from beginning to back.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's 60 pages with fucking pictures. I mean, it's such a fast read, and that's not to the detriment of the book. I think it's to the benefit of it. But it's a quick read. It's a quick story, and it's the same thing with the Madhouse on Serious Earth. It's a pretty simple plot. So you'd either have to add stuff to it, which I think would be great.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see stuff that's still true to the character, but just deviates from like what Christopher Nolan did. Sorry, that was a total like different topic.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay, we're probably going to wrap up soon here, but Greg Pop with $2. We want Luke Wayne, and we want him now. Sorry, Greg. He's not here. I don't know what to tell you. He's not in the chat. How did this revolution begin in the chat? Because Luke, to my knowledge, is not even here. So...
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Is this like a proxy war? Is this like Russia starting shit in the Middle East? Is he like DMing all of you to instigate this? My understanding is that he's not even here. So no, I'm not changing the title for someone that's not even in my stream. So no, maybe if you were here, you'd have an argument, but, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Arkham Gaming with $5 more. By far the top dono of the stream with $20 at least. Thank you, Arkham Gaming. I would say if WB listens to the fans and gives, and by the way, you've been having some great discussion points. Thank you. These
absolutely.
have been really good. Go ahead.
Yeah, dude, Arkham Gaming, I may disagree with some of the things that you're saying, but I totally, like, this is a really, I appreciate what you're bringing to the table. You have some really great points.
Absolutely. So he says, I would say if WB listens to the fans and gives us movies like a Nightwing or Man of Steel 2, but they don't because they don't care about the fans. I would say if WB listens to fans and gives us movies like a Nightwing or Man of Steel 2, but they don't because, okay, I understand what you're saying. So basically he's saying that, like, the audience, WB is not really listening to the fans, and they're not giving us what we want to see. And that I would not disagree with either. I would not disagree with that. I think that there are a lot of movies that fans would like to see. At this point, I do think that they're in a huge, like, moneymaker mode. And they're really focused on, like, what's going to bring them in revenue, and they're really focused on this comedy shift because they were also like, oh, Shazam was so successful and it was funny, blah blah blah. The thing with Shazam is that Let me look up the box office of Shazam. Do you
Yeah,
know
the
off
box
the top of
office
your
was
head?
pretty low, but like in comparison to the budget and based on the popularity of the character, I think it was viewed as a success, even though it has a pretty low box office, to be fair.
366 million, and the
Yeah.
budget was 100 million. So that's break even. We
Right.
got to be honest, that's only break even.
Yep.
Um, so, but like you said, they view it as a win because it's like, oh, we're going in this new direction, we're doing all this new stuff.
Well, and you have to remember he's not Superman, he's not Batman. He's like
Right.
this obscure character that I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous idea too, and that's how they played it up in the movie, but it I mean, imagine if Marvel made that exact same movie. Imagine if Shazam was in the MCU. It would be viewed as like an Ant-Man, where it's like not really an
Yeah, it's like
essential
who gives a
viewing.
shit. And
Yeah.
the thing Arkham Gaming that I do think you make a good point about is that um, Nightwing has been in development for how many years, and there's no sense of
Yeah.
urgency to do it. It's the same thing with Batgirl, same thing with like a bunch of these other movies. But we are getting Matt Reeves' Batman. We did get the Snyder cut, granted, reluctantly so. So I hope that they're going to sort of change in that sense, because the reality of it is they've not been super successful financially. So they kind of need the fans. They need to build that coalition where, okay, they're going to do some of what they want to do. But
Well,
let's
I
also look at
will.
Birds of Prey. Let's look at Birds of
Yeah.
Prey
Yeah.
box office. Birds of Prey box office.
And you do have to keep in mind that one was rated R, and again, not marketed super well.
200 million box office. Birds of Prey budget. 82 million. That's also break even, roughly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, even these movies who kind of seem like a success, they're not killing it at the box office. So they do need to work with fans. That's true.
Yeah.
They need to build that collaboration. So Arkham Gaming, I hate to say it like this, but like the more times that there are these movies that either lose money or don't make any money, the more they're looking to like, oh, fuck it, let's just do the Snyder Cut. Like that's where
Yep.
they start to get desperate and they start to think like, okay, we have all this fan fervor for this, but the Snyder Cut's got to make money for them. It has to be successful for them. It needs to be getting a lot of streams for HBO Max. But now, granted, I'm going to be totally honest. I don't think HBO Max is going to survive. I think that 75% of these streaming services are gone, like in the next 2 years. I was already tweeting about fucking Paramount Plus. Are you
Right.
kidding me? Paramount Plus.
Yeah, you couldn't pay me to subscribe to it.
What
It's
is there
getting
to
that
watch?
point. It's right.
NBC, so like, oh, I'm gonna watch John Oliver, where all like the cool clips from his show are already on YouTube. Or not John Oliver.
I've
What's
honestly,
his name? Trevor Noah.
yeah,
Okay, they have Trevor
I've
Noah. They
honestly,
have the shitty new SpongeBob that no one wants to see with the fucking trash animation. There is
what is it,
nothing to
Camp
watch in
Coral
the
or whatever?
NBC. Yeah. Like we can watch the first season of Supergirl or I don't know something.
Dude, I bought The Office on my Vudu account because I'm like, I don't care that it's leaving Netflix, and that's where I'm at. I've bought all the shows that I watch, like The Office, Arrested Development, the Batman the Animated Series, and all that. They're all on my Vudu account, so I'm getting to the point where that's just cheap. It's just cheaper to buy the shows themselves and have them forever than have to keep switching over subscription services every time it switches.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Oh. And then it makes it like a chore because it's like, okay, I bought HBO Max for the next 3 months. I need to like binge all of the animated series. So I don't have to keep paying for this shit every month,
You,
you
you
know?
almost need like a whole new streaming service to just organize everything into one. So it's like, okay, every show that I'm subscribed to is in one place or something. It gets hard to organize, and then it gets expensive. And now it's as expensive as cable, which was the whole point of the streaming services in the first place. Was like you get all this great stuff for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, it's a total joke. But thank you again for the $5, Arkham Gaming. Next super chat is from Shawrick Sells Internet. Hashtag release the Luke Wayne cut. Bring Luke Wayne next live. I don't know where he is. What do
He's
you mean
welcome
bring
on.
him live? Yeah, well, I am on. But he's not in here. So everyone's spamming Luke Wayne plus, Luke Wayne gang, Luke Wayne gang. Yes, Shawrick. Greg Pop is excited about that $2. Falcon Winter Soldier first 3 days was 1.7 million. Snyder Cut first 4 days is 1.8 million. Is that true? How do you know that?
Yeah, I don't think they've released numbers. If they had, please let me know where it is. Because I am interested. I'd like to know how well the movie's been doing.
Zack Snyder's Justice League is key to getting 150 million members. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now if I take your word for that, wait. Warner Media has widely viewed as fumbling HBO Max's May launch. Back in July, parent company AT&T reported 63 million legacy HBO and HBO Max subscribers, 4.1 million activations of the HBO Max app. Yikes. Suggesting there wasn't enough to entice old school HBO subscribers to use the new service. A month later, Disney reported 60 million subscribers. Yeah, dude, their back catalog is just too strong at Disney. Like, they've got a great back catalog. Like, they could literally never add anything new to it, and it's like all the Disney animated movies, all the Marvel movies. It's like, bro, that is so OP.
Well, and the problem is you look at all the Disney stuff and it's all bingeable, whereas you look at Warner Brothers hits and it's like all of these like horror movies and like all the Stephen King things and Lord of the Rings, which are all great movies, but it's just, it's different. It's like those are all kind of once in a while movies, and in some ways I feel like they have more quality, not all the time, but sometimes, versus Disney, where it's like you could binge the whole MCU in like, a few days.
Right. Okay, guys, I think we're going to cut it there. I know we have, still 100 people live, but I don't want to keep too much of Jake's time. Thank you, Jake, for coming on and hanging out. I had a great time. We'll obviously be talking about this more later this week, and hopefully we'll get the gang together to do the Anonymous Throwdown Podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Anonymous Throwdown Podcast. This is a perfect time to do a sub pitch because we are nearing the amount of subscribers that we need to get a bunch of channel benefits. We get a whole bunch of channel benefits once we get 1,000 subs. And by nearing it, I mean we're roughly halfway there. Greg Pop with a $2 donation. You're only popular because of Luke. That's funny because I remember doing streams with him when he had like 100 subs. That's funny though. That's funny. That's funny. Thank you for the $2, Craig. I appreciate it. No, and it'll be great to have Luke back on to do Arkham Knight. We are going to be doing Arkham Knight streams. Now everybody's spamming in the chat. Oh, that's funny as hell. Oh, I love that. So we are going to be doing Arkham Knight coming up. I've got a video essay series that I want to do. Lots of cool shit coming down the pipeline. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream. Jake, thank you so much for coming on. And
oh yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course, I just put the link to the Anonymous Throwdown Podcast. Make sure you go subscribe over there, and we're going to be discussing all kinds of stuff there in the coming weeks. We try to do it once a week, and we've been doing it now for several months. It's been a lot of fun. So definitely check that out and make sure to subscribe over there. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Like the stream. It helps share it with new people. Ring the bell if you haven't already. Do all that fun stuff. And subscribe to IronGen as well on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at IronGen. And follow me on Twitter at SlickMoff. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next stream. Peace out.